Hello, I'm Jeff Claydon of Claydon Drills and also Claydon Farms here in East Anglia in England, and here we make the drills and farm about 340 hectares of land. Our crops at the moment, we're growing a winter wheat, which is half of the area. We also grow winter beans, spring oats and oilseed rape. So what we're going to do today is take you around the farm later on after we've done the presentation and show you the farm and all of the crops over the farm. So hopefully we'll learn a little bit more about soil, worms and all the biologies as we go through this presentation, and also growing those excellent crops and being profitable. So we'll start the presentation with the family farm, which is the 340 hectares, soil, its health and our future, because with healthy soil and healthy people we have a wonderful world. We're starting this virtual open day because of the pandemic at the moment, and so welcome to the Claydon Open Day 2020. Here's our crop of winter wheat which was taken last week, and you can see we're very proud and very happy, and we've done very well to establish a crop like this with the weather as it's been this year. But the most important thing about being a farmer, the most important thing about my farm is that it actually turns in a profit, and that I'm a very happy farmer. And we want you to be very happy farmers and grow very good crops like we grow here in Wickhambrook. Wickhambrook is a small village in East Anglia, very near to Cambridge, about 100 kilometres north of London. It's a time of reflection, particularly as we have this current situation of the lockdown. Here on the farm, I've been lucky because I've been able to have my own little lockdown in my tractor cab, going hoeing my lovely crops of wheat. I've been out there digging ditches, and I've been having that lovely time where I've been able to think and look at my farm. And I'm sure you on your farms this year with lockdown, being at home, you've looked at your farm probably more so than you've looked at it for a long time. So lockdown here in the factory, we realised, being farmers and also farm machinery manufacturers, it's important that we keep producing food for the population out there. And so you need spare parts, service and equipment. And we've kept this factory open. All of our staff who are office based have taken their IP phones and gone home, so when you ring them they sound as if they're still here in the factory, but they're emailing and busily getting those parts filtered through to the factory, perfectly safe at home. In the factory we've divided it into 4 areas where there's nice safe distancing. We have the painting area, we have the welding and assembly area, and also the assembly area to assemble those machines. But importantly, we have that stores area, which is shipping parts out to you and also getting parts in. But please, with the pandemic going on, remember some of those suppliers are either on shutdown or lockdown, and later in the season we may have some supply issues, all of us, whatever it is. So I'd urge you to think about your businesses and order those parts in good time so that you have them and are a happy farmer and able to do what you want to do. So this lockdown, I'm sure, is not going to last forever, but it's going to last some time, and we're going to see lots of more virtual presentations from many, many more people, and they'll be of great value, and you'll save a lot of time because you'll be able to see them without spending hours travelling to meetings. Unfortunately, we'll miss meeting all our friends at those meetings. I know that, and hopefully we'll have some of those meetings return when things settle down. But key to it all is food supply. Without the food supply, and none of us would survive. Without clean water, none of us would survive, pandemic or not. So it's absolutely crucial, and I think the public have had time to think and reflect and see how valuable we are as farmers globally. We're trading food globally at the moment, and we've got to remember supply and demand will dictate the price of our products, our commodities. So therefore, It's absolutely key to be able to produce those commodities cost effectively and maintain that profit margin. So hopefully today we will show you a better way of being able to grow those crops and achieve higher yields and better profit margins at the end of the day. Last season, I don't know whether erratic weather is the right word. It was horrific weather, wasn't it? Nothing was normal. It rained and went on and was very difficult for us all, and we'll go into that in a moment. But this pandemic has actually given us all, the whole society, a lot more time for thinking. Don't waste that thinking time. Think about how you're going to go forward in the future, how you're going to retune your business, how you're going to make those better profit margins, and how you're going to be a much happier farmer when you take the right steps to go forward. So we go over to the weather, and many of us saw the fields in areas of the country looking like this. This is absolutely disaster. When the soil becomes waterlogged, the soil health, the whole structure absolutely destroyed. Here in East Anglia, we were fortunate we didn't get into this situation unless we went out there and made it like that. If we tried to cultivate in the wrong conditions, caught that water, sealed the land, we could have easily been in that position. We didn't move the soil, so here on this farm, our soil stayed in excellent health. And you can see the rain here and over the country, East Anglia, Midlands and Lincolnshire, started to rain in September. We didn't get our wheats drilled here until the 30th of November. The 30th of October. And so much later than normal. And that rain kept going from September all the way through till mid-March, with only about 3 dry days consecutively in that whole period of time. I don't think I've ever known it to be so wet for so long. When we got to the spring, mid-March, stopped raining. We had 2 very small showers the first week of April, just enough to wet my car bonnet. And then we had no rain, very drying winds and hot sunshine, which turned our soil very baked and cracked. And then luckily, on the last week of April, we had about 30 millimetres of rain. So a week ago, our crops got 30 mil, which we were very grateful for. And when we go around looking at our crops after the presentation, you'll be able to see how healthy and how strong they're growing. Reflecting back over the years, we on the farm here 40 years ago designed and developed what was the Claydon yieldometer, and that's what started the company. This was the whole ethos of our thinking, of being able to harvest a crop and measure exactly what those yields were, how effective those inputs have been, which ones were worth putting on, and which ones were worth putting back in the cupboard and ignoring. We were able to test out different varieties, different fertilizer levels, different fungicide levels, and measure all the effects on all of those treatments. And this is product set up our whole thinking going forward 40 years ago when I started farming. I've been in farming about 10 years when I designed this product, and I've always been on the farm, and now I've actually completed 52 harvests. So it's interesting going forward, looking at it. I don't think in all my years of farming I've seen weather conditions like this last season, only in 2 or 3 previous years in that period of time. What's so important to me on the farm, and to you guys as well, is growing those consistent crops and having a nice even yield map. This is off the later combines which produce the yield maps. We worked on straight comparisons to an accuracy of 1%. Now the yield maps are not quite so accurate, but they give you a jolly good feeling of where the crop is being produced. And when you look at this one, we have a few little patches around the headland, but generally 41% of that field was doing over 12.5 tonnes a hectare. And here you can see, if we take the field boundary, the real area, we actually come out at 12.9 tonnes a hectare. This was a very good crop. This is one we'd like to produce every year, but the weather doesn't always allow us to do that. And our 10-year average is probably around about the 10 tonnes a hectare mark. As long as we're above 10 tonnes a hectare, I'm a happy farmer. So Claydon today, 17 years ago, we developed the ultimate farming practices and machines, which this is an old V-drill. We've found better soil health. We've found better efficiency, getting those crops in at the right time and at the right costs. We've found increased yield because our timings are so much better. We've also got reduced risk because we're able to do those operations a lot quicker. Profitability is fantastic. It's good for me and it should be good for you. But the most important thing to us all is we must future-proof our businesses. If we can save time, and ideally when the pandemic is gone, we can start enjoying life and we'll have money in the pocket to spend on our lifestyles and going back and enjoying life more. So it's absolutely key to be an excellent farmer to have a profit. The Claydon system is very simple. We harvest the crop, doing a very good job in spreading the straw. We then do a small amount of stubble management, and people still say to me today, I don't understand what a straw harrow brings to the party. We then drill those fields and roll them down to get the crop seed to soil contact. Giving a small space between the drill and rolling gives me that crumble of the soil for a much better seed bed. And then basically we treat the crop in the normal way with fertiliser, sprays until next harvest. So the system is very, very simple and a very short route to establishing the crop. Here we have one of our fields, and one of the keys to working really, really well is to get a nice even spread of straw. And here you'll see our John Deere tractor running along, and you can see the straw all over the field. This is about 11 tonne a hectare crop. Look at the level of straw, a tremendous amount of straw. Look at it's even building in the Harrow. And we're dragging, and luckily it's not coming out in lumps because it would be too damp if it was, but we're a nice dry day and we're evening that straw all over that soil profile. And you'd think, would we want to drill into that? We do, and it works. But one key thing about that, what have we done? We've put that straw onto the ground. Now that straw is onto that ground, it's the most valuable commodity there is, because the next stage is our friend, the soil health. And to make the soil health really excellent, see the holes here? It's our friends the worms. We're going to have a section later on the field with Simon talking about our worm levels. So you'll be able to see what they're actually doing and where we are with them after 17 years. Here you can see that same field. Where's all the straw gone? It's on the ground. When it's on the ground, it's harvested by those worms, and they are going through the soil and they're creating all those valuable air passages, all that lovely drainage, and all that beautiful soil structure. Simple. The straw harrow is one of the most underrated bits of kit, but it doesn't end there. What we have is here, just levelling up the straw, you could argue, but it's doing more than that. It's evening it up. In moving it, those 16mm tines meet up with a few of these. We all know what they are, those slugs. They don't like meeting a steel tine, and another one here, not very happy at all. But in moving that residue, we're not allowing these little nests to hatch these valuable or horrible slug eggs, whichever way you want to put it. And these will dry out now in the sun, and they won't emerge in the next crop when we plant that next crop of wheat to eat those seedlings. Here we've got also another advantage with a 15-metre straw harrow. This is our own one, and here he's just removed a piece of cover crop strip using the straw harrow. You can see how effective it is at removing volunteers or also any grass weeds that we may have. So we're using it for three things: evening up the straw, feeding the worms. We're also destroying anything trying to grow in the soil and anything trying to breed, like the way of pests, in the way of slugs and so forth. We're doing about 18 kilometres, perhaps a little more there, and he's only using about 2 litres of fuel a hectare. We're covering 60 acres an hour, which is probably more than I can spray. Here we've got the TerraStar. We have this when we want to incorporate residues, or we're putting muck on, or we have a field which is a little bit not very nice and we want to make a small bit of tilth. We'll use that TerraStar to generate that tilth, and it doesn't move all the soil, but it helps incorporate digestates or anything you want to put on. So it's another tool in the armoury, and something we're not using all of the time. The straw harrow is the real king product. This is no-till, and this picture was taken on the 27th of May, and no stubble management. For me, I wouldn't want my fields to look like this. Fortunately, these are not my fields, and I'm sure you wouldn't want your fields like that. It can bring problems. These areas with heavy straw residues up in the air, the slugs can breed in it. The worms can't harvest it, and what happens later in the season, perhaps the weeds start to come in those areas when you get a rain. Last year was very dry, and the crops in the spring were struggling to get away, you can see here. On our own farm, a totally different scenario. We've done the simple stubble management in the autumn, sprayed it in the spring to kill the weeds, and drilled this crop of spring oats only at 130 kilograms a hectare. And these oats went on to do just shy of 8 tonnes a hectare. So with only a very small amount of work and cost, we've actually upped the yield considerably from the last pictures. So we'll go on to where we come to our main key products, which are seeding drills, strip till seeding drills. Here we have our range of trail drills, and also we have mounted drills. We run from 3 metres up to 8 metres, and generally we require about 50 horsepower per metre on most farms to pull them. So you can see a good versatile range. We can have seed and fertiliser or seed only drills. Whatever you want on the farm, we can cater for it. We have different attachments which we will be bringing to market for lower soil disturbance later in the year, so keep your eyes open for that one. And we have a wonderful product which we've been perfecting over those 17 years. It's a very simple concept. We have the depth wheel which runs on the unmoved soil, so it has a constant, precise level of where the field is. We then have a breaker tine which breaks the soil, and breaking that soil creates that little bit of breakage and rooting zone. We then come along with a seeding tine and place the seed in a band over the broken soil from the front tine. And of course at the back here we have the levelling boards just to cover the seed with a little more soil, and the harrow to finish it off, to give you the perfect growing environment for that seed. We retain the moisture because we haven't moved the soil. So in spring drilling this year it's been fantastic, and you'll see our spring crops later. So very simple, but key is the soil improvements we're seeing. These earthworms are thriving. You can see in the unturned soil, the improved soil air ratio and the drainage, absolute key to a very, very good crop. We all think we'll move a little soil on the top. We'll place that seed with a conventional type of drill. And here we have a short disc, which many of us are using out there, and a conventional disc drill. And we've drilled this winter wheat, or the farmer has, not on our farm. And you'll see the soil movement here, the compaction layer here where the machinery's been running, and very poor rooting. And looking at this plant and the crop behind it, you can see the wheelings, you can see the compaction, you can see also the plant is looking a little bit stressed. But where we've drilled in the same field, a few days later with a Claydon, we have a different scenario. The rooting in the Claydon plot, uninhibited, and you can see it growing beautifully, taking full benefit of that soil. And here, the Claydon crop in the same field, drilled 3 days later, a much better biomass on the top, much better potential for the yield, and a safer crop. So Claydon drilled wheat there, and it's the same in all of the other type of crops. So to summarise, and not to go on to you all day about how good we are, because we know that it works very, very well, the soil and crop benefits that we're getting is much stronger, faster establishing crops because we're not losing the moisture. We have enhanced rooting so that those plants can reach their full potential in the field. We have healthier crops because they've got healthy roots and healthy soil. It's very simple. We also have better water retention because we haven't disturbed all of that soil and we've not let it dry. We've also got the better water retention because we have a small amount of tilth from the stubble management on the surface, which stops the soil baking hard and dry like we see in tram lines. We have more drilled at the optimum time. But where do we stand on these costs and the yields? Because this is where we are in the office, and this is where we need to check. And this is good thinking time, looking at your business and what you're doing today to see if you can improve it. So when we go back to the old plough system, look at the time. About 110 minutes per hectare we need of reasonable weather conditions to be able to work those seed beds to get them into good condition, and we need the right weather come drilling. If we go for min-till, we can halve that. Effectively, you could say halving our costs, and I think most of us, fair to say, are doing min-till at the moment. But when you go to a Claydon, you can bring that right down 26 minutes a hectare. So you need 26 minutes a hectare of good weather conditions to be able to establish those crops. So when you think we're nearly half the time of the min-till, we're able to get those crops in on better timings and get better crops at the end of the year. So time savings are absolutely crucial. It's your insurance that you're going to establish good crops, but you have to get out there and you have to make the decision when you want to go and drill those, and it's your decision. If you miss that bus, well, that's how it is. Going over for the costs, so important to look at them. And here we have our trusty Claydon calculator. On our website, you can go to the cost calculator. You can select the currency you want to put in. I've got euros in here today. You can enter your farm size in hectares. We have 1,000 hectares entered. And the current system, we're going to have our solo type machine, 8 meters, a deep tine disc packer on a giant size 600 horsepower tractor, and on that area we'd come out about one pass about £62 or €62 a hectare. A euro and a pound, €1.14 to £1, so very similar price. The current system we'd run with a spring tine maybe, and we'd do 2 passes to get the seed bed quite nice, probably about €48 to do that, and we'd run with a nice 8-meter drill, so we got it drilled hopefully on the right conditions, and 1 pass was at €40, and then we'd probably finish off with a roll before spraying, and you can see the costs all down the column there. So if we look at the Claydon system, we now have the 15-meter straw harrow, and we're going to go over behind the harvester, and we're going to even that straw up so the worms, it's on the ground, the worms can harvest it, and we'll get the volunteers chittered and so forth, and then we'll go over probably about 10 days after that and take the volunteers away and also help to control any pests, and we'll spend €15.96. We'll run over this farm with an 8-meter Claydon, a 6-meter would be perfectly adequate, and so you'd be €38, and we'd roll it the same to give that nice surface for the chemicals and the soil to be able to take the chemicals on to control any weeds. So when we look at it, the cost a hectare based on 1,000 hectares, €141 for that min-till system. The Claydon cost per hectare, €67. The total savings per hectare, more than 50%, or you could say 100% saving, depending how you do your percentages, but we saved €73 a hectare. So the costs for the current system, €141,000. For the Claydon system, €67,000. Not only am I happier, but my bank manager is smiling as well. So the annual saving, €73,000. A 3-year saving, €219,000. A 5-year saving, €366,000. But it doesn't end there, because if you look at your yields, and bear in mind these plots were drilled at the ultimate time with our friends up the road, Saturn Union. They used many varieties, about 15 different varieties, and over 10 years they've compiled all of those results and the average yield from all of the varieties of wheat. We have 600 millimetres of rain average per year over those 10 years, and with a plough-based system and digitons 864, which is 8.64 tonnes a hectare. With the Claydon system we have 9.42 tonnes a hectare, or 942 digitons. That gives us a yield increase year on year of 9%. Okay, so we've got 9% more crop to actually sell, store and handle. So in 2011 we had a stonking 26% yield increase, but in 2014 here in England we had 723 millimetres of rain, and like some countries also where they have more rainfall, getting successful results is key. And in 2014 you can see the plough-based system, we were doing 12.04 tonnes a hectare, and the Claydon surpassed that at 12.79 tonnes a hectare, nearly a tonne more, and you can see that was a 6% yield increase, still very useful. But you take those figures, you can imagine how much more it can bring to your bottom line. So when we look at those and bring them in with the cost savings, we can then look yield on 1,000 hectares, and here we have our total savings per hectare of €73, which we saw earlier. We then have a yield of 10 tonnes a hectare, which is perfectly respectable, £150 a tonne or 150 euros. 10% yield increase is 150 euros extra per hectare. The yield increase on 1,000 hectares would be 150,000 euros. Additional margins, year one, with the savings, would be up at 223,000, 600,000 by year three, and over £1 million or €1 million by year five of extra income from savings and yield. That's the key to successful farming and being a very happy farmer. Today, we're going to go out and have a look round the farm after you've listened to me on this presentation. And last year, this is a picture of our soil pit, and you can see here we dug down about 1 metre deep in a crop of oilseed rape, and we wanted to see what's happening with the soil. And our friend Dick Neal came over and did the assessment, and we passed with flying colours. Here he's showing how the water infiltration with dye has gone down through the soil and how it's absorbing in the soil. Here you can see a closer picture, those wormholes of great value, those roots of the crop. It was a fantastic result. Today we're going to take you out there in the field, and we've dug a soil pit in the wheat. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that comes out with Dick doing a presentation on that. Here we have also today for you, this is last year's picture, some of that pesky blackgrass which has had all of the chemicals you can imagine on it is still there. And we have a situation, small areas on the farm where we have great difficulty controlling it. And here we've run our TerraBlade, and you can see how it's taken those plants out. And we're using the TerraBlade to get those very resistant blackgrass plants out that unfortunately all us heavy land farmers here in East Anglia have. Not only East Anglia, Cambridgeshire, Northampton, Lincolnshire, and well over most of the UK blackgrass problems. Well worth a consideration. We'll be showing you the TerraBlade working later on today in a field. But to sum up, this is what we all want to see at harvest. This is a Claydon crop of wheat. You can see the bands. It looks as if we could put more ears in the middle there, but all the light has gone in onto the plant. All that sun has been turned into energy, turned into grain. And the great result that we're getting, you can see it going into the harvester here. And this harvester was actually reading 3 to 4% lower on yield than the actual figures when we sold. And you can see we're clocking a nice healthy 13 tonnes a hectare in the field there, harvesting that crop. That's the type of crop that we need wherever we're farming in the world to be able to sustain those magic profit figures and be very, very happy farmers. We'll take you out now round the farm, and we'll do some more shots and presentations in the fields so that you can see how the Claydon farm and the crops are performing this year.